Flikshop is the tool that allows our families and the friends and now even second chance employers the ability to take a picture, add some text, press send, and with our mobile app, we print that picture and text on a real tangible postcard and we ship it to any person in any cell, anywhere in the country. Now, we've connected tens of thousands of families all over the country to folks who are incarcerated in local county jails or in state prisons, federal prisons, juvenile detention centers. One of the folks that I would have never thought that we would have been able to help try to impact their lives are folks sitting in ICE detention centers. These are people who are typically relegated to the shadows simply because of a decision or a mistake that they made, many, many years prior. And now they don't have the same kind of access to their friends and families that folks have out here in the community that can double tap our way through a scrollable feed where we see love. Those people that are sitting in those cells, they still want to see pictures of the first day of school for their children, or the moments where their children are opening up Christmas gifts, or the family gatherings like at Thanksgiving dinner, just like people like you and I want to share out here. We just wanted to be able to make sure that we created an affordable way for that to happen. I feel super blessed to now have access to be able to, be in environments where I can now create different types of social capital, but I also am able to introduce the things and the tools, the technologies that I'm building inside of very interesting spaces. We built the technology that helps keep families connected to their incarcerated loved ones. And while the earlier years of learning how to be able to build Flikshop were very, very challenging, over the journey, we've been very intentional about the relationships that we build. Now, those relationships have spun up to be able to create investments from people like John Legend and his Free America team, all the way through being accepted into one of the most prestigious business accelerators at Techstars. Having that kind of access to not only leaders in the business community, celebrities who also want to figure out ways to be able to support criminal justice reform, but also bringing people like the folks who work on my team who also have felony convictions like me, is creating something that's like a snowball. And every time we get a chance to roll just yet another opportunity into that snowball, it says something. It speaks to all of the folks who, one, said that we couldn't do it, but it also confirms and validates the people that are still sitting in those cells and daydreaming about being the future Marcuses. And I'm super grateful to now have that kind of access. One thing that people don't know is that in prison, mail call means everything. It's the singular moment, no matter where you're incarcerated, around 4 p.m., that a correctional officer will scream out your name if you've received something in the mail. When folks receive mail, it signals to them or everybody else in the housing unit that you're cared about, that someone remembered you, that someone was specifically thinking about you and knowing that they wanted to share this moment of their world with you, specifically for a population of people that simply believe that they don't matter anymore. Our postcards are completely reshaping the way not only folks communicate, but the way that they express love. We get it. We understand the value of communicating with one another. It's the reason why social networks have become the predominant way of communication out here in the community. But what we're forgetting is that there are over 2 million people who are incarcerated around the country who don't have access to the internet, or they don't have access to any of the social networks. They don't have easy emailing or texting or any of the ways that we share this information. So we wanted to create something that helps to solve that problem. When I first came home from prison, I would never share with anyone that I actually just came out of one of those cells. I mean, I would want to look the part. I would want to try to figure out how to speak the part. I wanted to ensure that I kept that part of Marcus encapsulated. And it wouldn't be until another mom who was using Flikshop, this was well after we launched the tool, before someone would say, Marcus, I know you're the CEO of this company, and you would never really get the impact of what this has done for my son and I. And my nephew was nudging me like, you gotta tell her, you gotta tell her. Because I would try to figure out ways to hide that part of my past. But then when I relinquished to that woman and let her know that, ma'am, I do understand where you're coming from. My mom was you, and your son is the me. He's the before, and I'm the after. And I want you to be able to see this vision of what he can possibly be now so that you can know how to support him along this journey. I hope that she's out there somewhere and her son is home and he's creating his own successful path. But now I'm grateful to be able to share my story with others in hopes to be able to inspire them to see what the possibilities are for people coming out of these cells. You know, it doesn't get lost on me that we're creating something that has massive impact, mostly for families that I'll never be blessed to be able to meet. Whether it's the mom in Kentucky that wants to connect with her son the same way that my mom did with me, or the husband that wants to connect with his wife that's in some rural community that's living inside of a prison 4 hours away from them and they can't go visit. Or whether it's someone who got locked up here in DC but got shipped through the federal system all the way to California, and so they aren't able to be able to grow up with their uncle. Knowing that we're helping to keep these families connected in a meaningful way is something that I'm super grateful for. Because what folks don't really realize is that those people that are incarcerated are people. They're someone's child. They're someone's uncle, someone's nephew, someone's brother, someone's sister. They're someone's boyfriend, someone's girlfriend. And these are real people who made a decision or made a mistake that will now impact not only their lives, but everyone that they're connected to. And if we're being really thoughtful about what we even want from those people and how we want them to show up and come home, then we can't just continue to push them over into the shadows and say their lives are over. They were a drug kingpin or a drug lord or a murderer or someone who continued to rob people or someone like me who was carjacking. Like, these are real people who most times are living inside of areas these are real people who most times live inside of areas where these kinds of crimes are prevalent and the lines are blurred simply because they're living in spaces of lack. And if we're being thoughtful about how we want some of them to be able to come back home to our community, because there's 600,000 of them coming home every year, what is it that we need to do now while they're there to help them prepare for success after prison? It starts with the first thing, family connectivity. The second one, trying to figure out how to gain access to the equitable employment. The third one, where are they going to live and how are we being thoughtful about them returning to the communities that they're coming back to? And then the biggest one, how are we educating them along the journey around how to fulfill this massive tech gap that's happening when they're in prison. When I got locked up, I had a beeper on my hip. I came home, there was Google. The whole world changed. And I can only imagine what it's like for women and men that are coming home in this economic climate, in a climate that's filled with AI technology. Like, this is new stuff for them. And how we're going to help them succeed after prison is one of the questions that we answer at Flikshop. You know, I'm very familiar with the recidivism rate that's hovering somewhere between 75 and 80% for the people that's coming out of prison, knowing that they're going right back within the first 3 to 10 years of their release. And I attribute a lot of these, and I attribute that issue to two things. One, probation and parole and technical violations that are typically the things that put people back in these cells. Whether it's because someone like me who was living in Maryland and then got a job in DC and didn't realize that simply crossing that line was a violation of my probation. Could you imagine having to go back and me serving 15 more years because of the place that would finally give me an opportunity to be able to work after having to check the box that said I've been convicted of a felony and most people telling me kick rocks? Could you imagine can you imagine being stripped from your children simply because you couldn't go find a job inside of your area because most of the employment opportunities were available to people who had the skill sets that prison didn't prepare me for before I came home? And the second thing that I attribute a lot of the high recidivism rates to is how we're being thoughtful about preparing people for release well before they come home. People are sitting in cells for 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years, 30 years, and they're learning how to be able to build chairs in some factory for some for-profit company that is being predatory in how they even think about compensating the people that are building for them. But this is some chair company that sells to, the largest companies in the world. They're selling thousands and thousands and thousands of shares. The reality of it is that that same person that's coming home from that prison is coming back to our neighborhood. There's no jobs that's hiring people to build chairs. There aren't any jobs for people who are learning how to build wall partitions. There aren't these kinds of employment opportunities. And so now we're asking the person that comes home, most of them probably even fighting through mental health issues that either came as a result of the trauma that they experienced before they went to prison, or something that happened while they were in prison, and we're expecting them to come home and succeed without any preparation. We wouldn't even do this for our best college students. When someone goes to undergrad for 4 years, we are very intentional about making sure that not only are we connecting them to internship opportunities, that we're connecting them to the families that says, hey, let me send an email to my HR department so that I can help get you a job when you come home. We're very thoughtful about welcoming them in with open arms and making sure that they have somewhere to live without having to worry about paying bills or the pressure of having to put food on the table, because we know that they just came out of a 4-year training opportunity for them to be able to enter the real world. And we massage their reentry back into whether it be the workforce or our families. But the people who absolutely need it the most, with the highest expectation to succeed, in fact, punishable if they do not succeed, we don't support them. Corrections was designed to be able to keep Black and brown people locked away from their family members, and it's spilling over to this now new worldwide epidemic that we knew that we needed to be able to help try to contribute and solve for. I'm excited for what we're doing at Flikshop, but this is a massive elephant that all of us have to figure out a way to take small bite sizes of in order for us to be able to consume the era of mass incarceration.